Welcome to the Three-Piece Combo MMA Show, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Jonathan, aka Three-Piece Combo, and today we're going to be answering what's next for the lightweight division after the retirement of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Is it going to be Conor versus Justin? Are they going to turn that to a number one contenders fight? Or Conor versus Dustin, sorry. And we have Justin Gaethje, who's still fresh. He still wants to fight in 6 weeks. You have Michael Chandler, who was at the backup. And then you have Tony Ferguson, who before coming in was on a 12-fight win streak. So first, let's put these guys in order because we have to really think who is the true number one contender at this point. And I would rank Dustin Poirier as number one. And the reason I would do that, first of all, I think he had the best fight against Khabib. He was the one that actually was the closest threat to putting Khabib with the loss in his name. He had him in that head crank, that naked choke. And he had it close until he lost. But I think Dustin had the best fight against Khabib. And I also think he's the most well-rounded fighter in the division with the power being on both ends. He has the power to put people away by submission. He's been really working on his submissions lately, and just been getting better and better over time with that division of his department of his game. And he's always been a great striker. We always know how good of a striker that Dustin Poirier is. So I think right now he's the true number one contender. Number two, I'd probably put Justin Gaethje because he had a fight. He was the vacant or with the interim lightweight champion before fighting Khabib. He was knocking people out left and right. He destroyed Tony. He destroyed Cowboy. He destroyed everybody, basically. After his loss to Dustin Poirier, which is why I ranked him number two, he went on a tear and he went out and got to the interim lightweight belt. So I think Justin's number two. His striking is great, and no one's been really able to take him down other than Khabib. And that's not much to say because Khabib takes down everybody. Well, it's not much to say, but weighing against everybody else in the division, that's pretty heavy. That's pretty weightless because the top three guys, three of the top five guys have been beat by Khabib, but everybody's been beat by Khabib. At number three, I'm going to put Tony Ferguson. I think that he had a rough night against Justin Gaethje, but we can't forget what he did before coming in. He was on a 12-fight win streak. So he came in really hot, and he was preparing for a wrestler too. So we're going to rank Tony at number three. Number four, we're going to put Conor. He still has a great record. He definitely came in and he destroyed a really washed-up Cowboy, but he still destroyed Cowboy. And he's still Conor McGregor. And no matter what, I think he's always going to have that skill. He went toe-to-toe with Floyd, and he, burned out, gassed out in that fight, but he has the striking ability to win fights. And he was a double champ for a reason. You don't accidentally become a double champ. And number five, we got Chandler, because he's kind of the X factor in the division. We still don't know what he's going to give. He beat some good guys like Eddie Alvarez and Benson Henderson. But we still don't know where he's at. So we put him at number five, but he could be very well the number one contender. Dark horses in the division. I think the dark horse of the division probably is Charles Oliveira. I think he's coming in on an 8-fight win streak, finishing last couple of months by finishes. So for him, I think he's a dark horse in the division just because he's been streaking so well lately. Now, looking at what's on the table for everybody right now, obviously we know that Dustin and Conor are going at it in January. So we might see that get changed to a title fight and make that a lightweight championship fight. We still have a fresh Justin Gaethje. He's coming in. He got choked out, but he didn't really get beat up. So he wants to fight in 6 weeks. You have a fresh Michael Chandler. Was the backup in the fight. And then you have Tony Ferguson also, who his last fight was on May 11th on UFC 249. He got beat up. He got his orbital broken. Justin destroyed him. But he's probably fresh now, and he's been asking for good fights. He almost had the fight lined up with Dustin, and so he's definitely someone that's on the table. So let's make the case for each fight. Now, first, we have Dustin versus Conor. We can make that for the belt. I think that's a good idea. First of all, Dustin Poirier is the true number one contender. Like we talked about, he did better than Khabib. He beat Max Holloway, who's a taller guy, and even though he's fighting at 145 normally, he's a taller guy. So he beat somebody that's taller than him, and he's super well-rounded. He's able to work off his back, work the takedown, get the takedowns going, and the striking we know is phenomenal already. And obviously you have Conor McGregor. He's the biggest name in the sport, and he always delivers, no matter what. I guess against Khabib, Well, he won a round against Khabib, so he always delivers. He's probably the only guy that's won a round against Khabib, and he's beat Dustin before, so there is a case to be made there. Obviously, Dustin is not the same fighter. Neither is Max Holloway, because Conor beat Max Holloway when Max was first starting as well. And the fight's already made, so there's a way easier way to make this a title fight by not changing anything. Have them just making a title fight, and that would make Dustin and Conor probably get more money anyways, which is what both guys want. For the case for Justin Gaethje, he was the interim champ this year. He beat Tony. He destroyed Tony, who was on a 12-fight win streak, and he's still fresh from the Khabib fight. We know that he's not hurt or anything like that. He wants to go again this year, and you know that he's going to deliver a big fight. Almost everybody he fights, he puts away, and the only times he hasn't done that was when it was against Conor, or not Conor, when it was against Dustin, and when it was against Khabib, and he lost, another fight, but after learning from those fights, he gets better. And I feel like this is another fight where he can get better and understand how to grow as a fighter. Moving on to Michael Chandler, he was the backup fighter for this fight. So he had to have some sort of respect from the UFC and Dana White, because he was the guy, if something had happened, which had happened a lot of times with Khabib fights, that he was the guy that was going to be there to replace it. He's a previous title holder. He obviously was a champion in Bellator, and he had big names under his belt. We talked about Elie Alvarez. We talked about Benson Henderson. He beat a lot of guys over there holding the championship. And he's kind of the X factor in the division. We don't know what we're gonna get from him, but he's still definitely somebody that you have to look out for, and that's dangerous. And he still could very well be the #1 contender. Now, we also have Tony Ferguson, which I think is the guy that's odd out just because he took a loss recently against Justin. But before that, he was streaking on 12 in a row, and he beat a murderous row of guys, and he was truly the belt holder for a long period of time. Going into that Justin fight, he cut weight twice just because, champ shit only, but he cut weight twice, and that will do a lot on your body, and he was preparing for Khabib. And if you're preparing for Khabib, you're not preparing for somebody who's going to strike with the power of Justin Gaethje. So he came in definitely underhanded and not prepared for the right type of fight, which I think made him lose that fight. I think he would have done a lot better if he had the right preparation going into the fight with Gaethje. So what I think is going to happen, I think most likely you're going to see Conor versus Dustin for that belt. For them to make a fight out of thin air between now and December 12th, which is that UFC 256 card, it would be really hard to do. It's likely, Dana wants to put on the big fights, so you can put Justin Gaethje versus a Chandler, or Justin Gaethje versus Ferguson again, do that again, and have Ferguson actually get to prepare for that fight. That's another good fight they could put on as well. But I think more than likely, since the Conor fight and the Dustin fight's there, that's just going to make it a way more of a bigger of a fight. You already know that fight was going to sell, but now you're going to create another name when you create Dustin Poirier and introduce him to the casual MMA world. When you see people kind of like Justin Gaethje fighting Khabib gain recognition, you'll see Dustin Poirier gain some more recognition from that fight as well. So where does Dan Hooker and Oliveira fit into this? You know what I mean? They're both guys that are a little on the outside looking in. I think they need 2 more fights. But don't overlook them to face one of these guys. You can see Tony Ferguson take on Charles Oliveira, or Dan Hooker take on Michael Chandler, one of these guys, to really propel one of their names, because Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson are probably the 2 guys on the second half, and then Conor, Dustin, and Justin are the top 3. You put 2 of the 3 of those together, and you get yourself a nice little fight. So more than likely, we'll probably see Conor and Dustin fight for the belt in January. But it would be good to see, because if we can do that as the #1 contenders fight, and you make Justin Gaethje versus, let's just say, Michael Chandler for the championship fight, which either is going to do 2 things: solidify Justin Gaethje as the best guy outside of Khabib now that he's gone, or prove that Michael Chandler is the real deal and that he can fight in this division. And then now you have 2 fights. You have a great fight on December to fight for the belt, or fighting for the belt, and then you have the #1 contenders fight in January. So that'll line up perfectly back to back. And then you'll know within March, April, you'll have a huge fight between Dustin and Conor versus Justin or Michael. So it's going to be a great fight coming up. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you for checking out the 3-Piece Combo MMA show, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I hope you guys have a great day.